What is up, guys? My name is Matt from Magic the Greatening, and today I got a competitive deck tech, one of the most expensive decks I have made for our devastation. It's going to be Blue-Black Scarab God Control. The deck is rightfully named. We're just using control elements in a deck, and then using Scarab God to get back their creatures or ours. Before we get into it, go ahead, hit that like button, helps out a lot. Subscribe if you are new. We are just under 200 away from 2,000 subscribers. Help me reach that mark, means a lot to me. And then also, top right corner, vote for the next two decks. Option 1, Abzan Solemnity. Option 2, Mono Green Stompy Deserts. Let's get into it. Alright, let's start with the more important creatures in the deck, not sort of the bottom of the curve and move up. We're just going to start off with the most important creatures in the deck. We're going to be playing 3 copies of the Scarab God, 3 copies of Torrential Gearhulk, and 4 copies of Champion of Wits. Okay, everyone should know by now Champion of Wits is like going to be a huge standard card. If you haven't picked up your playset, go ahead and do that now, even if you're not even interested in this deck and you're a budget player. Champion of Wits is such a good card, fits in most blue decks or decks that run blue. And it's especially good in this deck because A, it draws us cards, filters through our deck. B, discards cards, so we can discard reanimation targets for Scarab God. And C, it's a good reanimation target itself. You reanimate it with Scarab God, or you just eternalize itself. And you draw 4 cards and discard 2. So, how to play the full playset. Scarab God is a no-brainer. The Scry and Drain ability is actually kind of important here. You're not going to expect to have a huge army of zombies, like 3 or 4 out. But even scrying 1 or 2 at the upkeep helps stick through your cards. We're already doing a lot of digging in this deck, a lot of drawing. But scrying more, having them lose a little bit of life, is not just completely irrelevant. Obviously, the activated ability is the reason we're playing this deck. And this guy's really hard to take out. Really, the only things are Hour of Glory, Cast Out, Stasis Snare, Declaration of Stone, mostly white spells. But we run 10 main deck counters, so it shouldn't be a problem. And then 3 copies of Gearhulk. We're playing a lot of instants in the deck. I believe 16 instants, and we're also playing 5 sorceries, but 16 instants, so a lot of targets for torrential Gearhulk. If you can't get him in the grave with a Champion of Wits or whatever, he's still just an amazing creature. Just, you guys know how good Torrential Gearhulk is. But if you do play him, he gets killed. Reanimate with Scarab God. Just like super, super good value right there. How to play at least 3 of him in this deck. Alright, those were our best creatures, like value-wise. Those are like the top 3 creatures. But these creatures are not irrelevant either. We're going to be playing 2 copies of Brawl, Chief of Compliance, 1 copy of Noxious Gearhulk, and 1 copy of Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. Let's go over Brawl first, because he's the one that stands out a little bit. We're playing 21 instants and sorceries. We're a control deck. So making those spells cheaper really, really, really helps out, 1-mana counter spells really just destroy our opponent. And he's actually not that bad of a reanimation target. He becomes a 4/4. He starts dodging things like Incendiary Flow, Magma Spray, stuff like that. So reanimating him isn't the worst thing. He's probably the worst target in the deck for reanimation. But if he's the only target, or you need that loot ability, or the instant sorceries cost 1 less ability, not too bad of a target. 1 Noxious Gearhulk to gain us some life. Good reanimation target. If he's not in your graveyard, you have him in your hand. A 6-mana 5/4 menace that destroys a creature when it enters and gives you some life is still not that bad. And then the 1 Ulamog. No-brainer. We're a control deck for playing against other control decks. This is good to hardcast. But even if you get it in your grave with a Champion of Wits or some other stuff we're playing, or even Brawl's counter ability, he's still a good target to hit with the Scarab God. Now, got to point this out. A lot of you already know this, but you won't get to exile 2 permanents if you reanimate this with the Scarab God, because that is a cast trigger. and we're not casting him, we're just reanimating him. But you'll still get a 4/4 indestructible that exiles the top 20 cards of your opponent's library. So that is super, super strong. Had to play at least the 1 copy of him. That is all the creatures we're playing in the deck. Not only can we reanimate our own stuff, but the Scarab God lets us reanimate our opponent's stuff. And with that, let's get into our counter spell kind of cards in the deck. I told you we're already playing 10, so we're going to be playing 4 copies of Disallow, 2 copies of Essence Scatter, 2 copies of Negate, and 2 copies of Supreme Will. Okay, Disallow is the best card in the deck, and with the Brawl out, he's a 2-mana counter or target spell activated or trigger ability. That loops, so that's pretty strong. 2 Essence Scatter for early game stuff, 2 Negate, a lot of, you know, you can counter artifacts, counter planeswalkers. We don't like planeswalkers. That will help with that. And then 2 Supreme Will. You guys know how versatile this card is. Originally, this was a 3 of, but I bumped it down to 2. Just because it's not, I mean, it's okay late in the game, but the variability on this card really, really helps it. It's kind of the only reason why it's in the deck. It could draw us a specific card if we need it, or that's in the top 4 of our library. Or it can counter something important that they don't leave up enough mana to not get Supreme Willed. So kind of the variability helps out this card a lot. That's our counter spells. Let's move on to our destruction spells. So that stuff will put stuff in our opponent's graveyard and not let them cast it. Now we're going to play stuff that slips through our grasps and that we can destroy. We're going to be playing 2 copies of Never Return, 2 copies of Murder, and 3 copies of Bontu's Last Reckoning. Alright, so Never to Return can take out Planeswalkers. The only reason there's 2 of and not a 4 of is because it's sorcery speed, and we don't like that because we're a control deck. 2 copies of Murder, just because it is unconditional removal. We like that in the main board. We have some aggro-based removal in the sideboard. Do not worry about that. And then Bontu's Last Reckoning is probably one of the best sweepers in Standard, especially in Black. Just destroy all creatures. Good against Teamer Energy. Good against things that go wide really quickly. A good panic button. Put stuff on our opponent's grave for us to reanimate. The good thing about Bontu's Last Reckoning is even if you have a Scarab God out, it'll just return to your hand at end step. So do not worry about that. Bontu's Last Reckoning had to play at least the 3 of. We need sweepers in this deck. And then for our last instant in the deck, we're going to be playing 4 copies of Hieroglyphic Illumination. That's our only technical spell that draws this card. And why am I not playing Glimmer? A, because we're not playing Energy, and B, this can cycle out early, which can be super, super important. You cycle this out early, you can hit it with the Torrential Gearhulk later if you need the cards. Also remember that we're playing Champion of Wits, which draws us cards. Torrential Gearhulk can replay the Hieroglyphic Illumination, and just stuff like that. You know, Brawl can help us loot through cards, so we don't have problems with drawing cards in the deck. I didn't feel a super necessity to play like Glimmer and this. Also, the 2 Supreme Wills can technically draw you a card, a specific card in your top 4 cards of your library. So, just the 4 copies of Hieroglyphic Illumination. Didn't really run into I didn't run into too many problems of running out of cards in our hand. That is the creatures and instants and sorceries. Let's get to the lands. We're going to be playing 4 Choked Estuary, 4 Fetid Pools, 2 Evolving Wilds, 8 Islands, and 7 Swamps. You might want to throw in 1 Irrigated Farmland, which is the blue-white bicycle land, just to cycle away, but I just felt, because we have so many double black and double blue cards, that wouldn't really help us if that was one of our only lands in our starting hand. 25 lands. We're drawing a lot of cards in the deck, so don't need to worry about playing more than 25. On to the sideboard, and this is where I gotta start explaining stuff, because there are some new decks that are running the meta, whether gonna be at the Pro Tour, or on Moto, or stuff like that. So, we're gonna be playing 3 Crook of Condemnation. Now, I know, this kind of goes against our strategy, but we do fine without having to reanimate stuff. We're playing Torrential Gearhulk, Noxious Gearhulk, Champion of Wits, can come back by itself, and Ulamog. Exiling everything from a graveyard, yeah, can shoot us in the foot, but if you're playing against a God Pharaoh's Gift deck, or a Reanimator deck of any sort, or Delirium, this, yeah, it hurts us a little bit, but it hurts them a lot more than it does to us. So I had to play the 3 of it in the sideboard. That blue-white God Pharaoh's Gift deck is becoming super, super popular right now. So this card kind of just destroys their entire game plan. at the expense of us a little bit, but it doesn't hurt us as much as it does them. 2 Dispel against control matchups. 2 Dispossess against strategies that use Panharmonicon, God Pharaoh's Gifts, gearhulks, stuff like that. Just get rid of pesky artifacts you don't want to have to deal with. 3 Fatal Push against aggro. 2 Grasp of Darkness, also against aggro, or really anything. This will hit like any mid-range deck. Can take out a Glorybringer, can take out Archfiend of Ifnir, can take out, you guys know how good Grasp of Darkness is. 2 more Negate, if they're playing, again, the God Pharaoh's Gift, any artifacts, Planeswalkers, Negate is one of the best counter spells for that kind of stuff. And then 1 Sphinx against control matchups, because we like our stuff to resolve. That is it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Only 2 options to vote for next week's deck tech. I know it's going to be Mono Green, Stompy Deserts. No one seems to be voting for that Abzan Solemnity, but trust me, that Abzan Solemnity list is pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. You guys are going to probably see that. It's not going to get voted for next deck tech, but you guys will see it on Sunday. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one.